Good evening. Good evening. We want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and for those that are watching at home as we discuss property taxes and how property taxes fund public schools. And so I am going to call up Mrs. Allison Holland, who serves as the chief clerk in the County Revenue Commissioner's Office. And she will discuss property taxes as a whole.
Good evening. How are y'all? I just want to say that I did welcome the call from Jay Jones, the MPS Communications Director. At first, I thought it was another call about something to do with the school system because I do have a child in Montgomery Public Schools. But she asked me to give a brief on the upcoming countywide renewal that's up for vote on March 5th. And I commend each one of you who did come out this evening to better educate yourselves on this constitutional amendment. Unfortunately, there are too many times where voters are in the voting booth on election day, and there are these amendments sitting there. And sometimes it's the first time you're seeing it. And I commend MPS for trying to get information out beforehand, before the election, and also for having me here today because our office, that's what we do. We collect the taxes. And I just wanted to give you a history and maybe answer some questions that we've already started getting in our office about the countywide school tax. So this amendment provides for a 3.5 millage rate renewal of the countywide school tax. And I know most people don't even know what a millage rate is. So I'd like to start there with, and it's just simple, nothing, no big calculations, but really a meal is just a 1,000 of whatever currency unit you're calculating. So with property taxes, one meal is equal to $1 in property tax for every 1,000 value of your property. So to give you an example, if my home is worth $200,000, well, does that mean that I pay, if I'm paying one meal, I'm going to pay $200? No, it's not. It's going to be based on your taxable income. So if sorry, not taxable income, but your taxable value. So with my $200,000 house, if I live in my home, my taxable value is going to be $20,000. So that one meal I would pay would actually be $20 in taxes. Okay, not $200, $20. Okay, so swapping that out, let's keep my scenario, $200,000 house, and let's talk about this 3.5 meals that I'm currently already paying on my home. But that portion would be $70. So the portion of my property taxes that I'm paying right now is $70 for that 3.5 millage rate that we're talking about today. So I want to get into the history of the 3.5 countywide millage rate. I know the biggest question we've had is, if it's a renewal, then why do I have to vote on it? Well, the Alabama Constitution, and Amendment 3 of it, it granted counties in the state the power to levy and collect funds that would be authorized for public school purposes. It cannot exceed 30 meals, and it must be for a certain time period. For our 3.5 millage countywide rate for Montgomery County schools, it's been in place for 40 years now. Well, nearly 40 years. We're coming up on that. And the most recent renewal took place back in 2004. And now it's time for us to renew this tax again. It's not a new tax, it's just a renewal. So I've talked about how it's going to affect your property taxes. And really, I just wanted to, stress, it's not an increase in millage rate. This is not like what we voted on in 2020. So that's my biggest question that I have gotten in the tax office over the last couple of months. Didn't we just vote on this? No, we did not. We had another millage rate that we were collecting that the state had to authorize all counties that were not collecting at least 10 meals. And we decided to let that one expire and go ahead and collect an additional 18 meals for our schools. Now, that was back in 2020. And the way the law was written, we're just now collecting that. We just started collecting that as of October 1st of 2023. So this is the first budget year that MPS is receiving those monies. So other differences in it is the new ad valorem tax that we voted on in 2020. Again, all of these, they have an expiration date. That's going to expire in 27 years. Now, if you've read the amendment for this 3.5 countywide millage rate, we have it for renewal for, I believe it's 30 years. Correct me if I'm wrong. 30 years. Okay. And I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that what the difference is in the renewal and what we already have in place. And this one is the 3.5 countywide. And I think Mr. Watts is going to come up and tell what that impact is, whether we say, yes, we want to renew it, or whether we are not going to renew this tax. And I also want to tell you that I've got my card on the desk. If you want to know how it will personally impact you, you can call me in our office or our main number, and we'll be glad to walk with you through that calculation and what you can expect, because we'll let you know what the portion already is, because it's not an increase. Mr. Watts, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hollins. We really appreciate the information. This tax is so important to all other residents and for all other residents of the state of Alabama. Most importantly, it's important for our students. The benefits that our students receive from this tax, along with other local revenues, are tremendous. This tax go on to support both classroom instructional materials and supplies. It assists us in supporting additional teacher units. We all know that the last thing we want to see is a classroom with 50 or 60 students to one teacher. That's the last thing we want to see. We want to ensure that we have enough teachers to cover our classes and to ensure our students are getting the individualized attention that they truly deserve. Well, that's what these monies allow us to do. It also provides us additional support units. I see our wonderful security officers over here, and these monies help us to keep our schools safe. And that's something we want to continue to do, definitely, to ensure health and safety for our students is there. We have to ensure that. Also, these dollars help us maintain our facilities. Ms. Hollis just talked about a few years ago when the 18 meals was voted on. Again, let me repeat, this is not a new tax. This is a tax renewal. And the thing about the tax that was voted on several years ago is that we just started collecting those monies this current year. And when that took place, it allowed the market to increase tremendously. I'm sure all of you have heard about the construction market, how the cost of everything has gone up sky high. We've all heard about inflation. Well, because we had to delay collecting those monies over the last 2 or 3 years, we're not able to purchase or not able to facilitate the number of buildings that we were planning on initially. So whereas before we was thinking about, we was hoping to do about $400 million worth of construction, now that is down to about $250 to $260 million worth of construction. So that's how that last tax has hurt us. But if we were to not support this current tax, we would have to go even deeper in the hole as it relates to renovating our facilities and maintaining our facilities. These dollars also help us with social and emotional support resources. We all know how difficult it has been over these last several years related to COVID. And some of our children also come from some very, very challenging situations. And so we want to make sure that we receive the appropriate funding to continue to support these initiatives. You know, we over the last year or so, we've been able to hire more arts and music teachers. We've been able to hire more advanced placement teachers. And we've been able to hire more teachers in several different areas. So it'll be just devastating for us to go back and have to start reducing some of the staff that we've already put in place for these students. The tax that passed in 2020 generated about $33 million in revenues. This particular renewal tax generates about $11 million in revenues. So just think, if we just passed a tax about 3 years ago that generates $33 million in revenues, and now we're talking about the possibility of reducing over a third of what was just passed. Y'all, our children deserve more than that. Our children deserve the appropriate education that I received. And you know, I saw on this agenda for me to talk about also the justification for the school tax. And I think I'll do that by just providing a testimony to you. I'm from a place called Hope Pearl, Alabama. Hope Pearl, Alabama. I attended school here in Montgomery. I attended South Lawn Elementary School, Floyd Junior High School, and at the time, Jeff Davis High School, now JAG High School. And I remember in Hope Pearl that there was a time where I lived in a house that where there was supposed to be a window, it was a board there. I remember a time in that same community that I lived in where I had to go out to the outside toilet up to the time I was in the 11th grade. But now I stand here before you as the Chief Financial Officer of Montgomery Public Schools. And ladies and gentlemen, that was all due to education in Montgomery Public Schools. You know why? Because I had the materials and supplies that was needed to provide an appropriate education. I had the books that was needed. Our teachers was able to get the professional development that they needed at that particular time. I went into a warm building, and I went into a secure building. And so we have to ensure that these same students receive those same opportunities that I received. Because I strongly believe that the next president of these United States and the next governor of the state of Alabama, the next mayor of Montgomery, will come from Montgomery Public Schools. Let's do right by our students, and let's support our children by supporting this tax on March 5th, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Watts. I'm gonna have a hard time following that. I'll start by, first of all, I want to make sure we acknowledge our board members here who are in the audience with us. Thank you so much for coming. Dr. Coleman, Ms. Brown, Ms. Portis, Ms. Mitchell, Ms. Smith, Ms. Cloud, thank you so much for being with us tonight. I think it's important to demonstrate what that looks like in terms of support of what we're trying to do in the district to move this forward. This task is extremely important, as for all the reasons that Mr. Walsh just described. So I won't try to double down on well, I will double down on some of those, but I won't go into a whole lot of detail that he's already covered. But let's talk about the whole notion of what a quality education looks like in the community. Obviously, we have issues we need to confront, and we've known that for decades. This didn't happen last year. We've had things we've needed to address for 30 plus years. That's the work we're trying to build. In order to do so, you need financial support to make those things happen. applause to this community for passing that ad valorem tax in 2020 to make us able to compete with the rest of the state in reference to the work we're trying to do. We're now in a place here where we need to continue to renew the money we already have. We've had it for 40 years. I'm going to keep saying it too. It is not a new tax. So in order to provide those programs, in order to provide that type of innovation that we want for our kids for a 21st century world, we need to continue with the funding that we have in place. That is very important. We're not necessarily preparing kids for the same world we experience as high school students. I don't want our kids to have the same high school education I had. I want them to have better than that. And it's our opportunity to do that. It's our obligation to do that. So obviously, I talk all the time about the fact that quality schools drive quality communities, or quality communities drive quality schools. Those things work hand in glove, and we have to be able to push things together as one, everybody taking on the things they need to do to make sure this takes place. Each person has a responsibility to our next generation, and that's the work we're trying to push for our district. So that is extremely important. I talked earlier about the challenges we face from underfunding for numbers of years. That is not new news. Everyone has known that. Some have chosen to ignore that, but that is a fact that we will continue to underscore until the cows come home, because it's a fact. It is important that our kids have those opportunities. They deserve that, just like any other kid in the state of Alabama. That is important to me. That's important to Mr. Watts. That's important to our board. That's important to this community. That's an obligation we have to our kids to make sure they can compete in a global society, not just here in our area, not just in our state or our nation, but in a world that has shrunk. They have to compete globally. They need to be viable in many different aspects, and we don't want to simply prepare kids to take jobs. We want to prepare kids for careers, be that going to college first or not. Our kids have to be prepared for that. That means we have to fund those programs. When we invest in education, it improves our entire community. It's as simple as that. If our educational system is what it should be and is on par, our property taxes, our property values go up. It's just that simple. If we don't fund those things and property values fall, no one's happy about that. And we're working tirelessly to move the needle for our district. These funds are essential to that process. I'll tell a little quick story about my background, because like Mr. Watts, I did not have a silver spoon in my mouth either. I had a quality education while coming from a trailer with no running water until I was 16 years old, and we were on public assistance that entire time. If not for education, helping us break that cycle of generational poverty, my mom and I would have been in the same situation. I don't want that for our kids. My mom was able to sacrifice and make those things happen, but so did our school district. And that generational poverty is gone from my family. My kids, my grandkid will not experience any of that. I want that for my kids here too. They deserve that. They deserve an opportunity to compete globally and live lives that are fruitful, prosperous, and they can be productive citizens giving back to our community. That's what that should look like, and that's what this tax will allow us to do. I can't stand here before you and advocate for a yay or a nay, but I would ask you to please continue to support the district, and knowing that the work we're trying to get in place is supported by these funds, and that has to happen. So with that, I'll close up my comments. We're opening the floor to questions. Mr. Watts will handle all the specific questions. You want to take this? Okay. But I thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about that, and happy to answer anything that I can answer.
Thank you. We want to thank Ms. Allison Holland from the County Revenue Commissioner's Office. She serves as Chief Clerk, Mr. Watts, our CSFO, and Dr. Brown, our Superintendent, and all of our board members here tonight, as well as our guests. If there are any questions for Mr. Watts, we'll take those now. If not, we do want to thank everyone for watching at home. We see that we have a number of viewers streaming and joining with us, so we thank you for that. Also, we do have signs that show support of this renewal, so if you would like to grab a sign from the back, you can put the yard sign in your yard. And if you're not with us tonight, you can pick those signs up at 632 South Union Street, and that is our MPS Leadership Center. Again, that is 632 South Union Street. And if there is nothing else, we would like to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Thank you.